Hey guys, welcome back to today's video. Today is Friday, July 2nd, 2021, and today we're going to be talking about the 2021 Virginia gubernatorial election. Now, I have been covering this race for quite some time now. There's been a lot of media attention on it, largely because this is the only real competitive race outside of the New York City mayoral Democratic primary that holds any type of implication for either political party or for the Biden administration this election year. In 2021, we have a New Jersey governor election, a number of statewide elections in both of those states, a couple of special elections, but none more important than the Virginia governor's race. And I've realized that while I have covered this race so intently, and I do love to predict Senate elections, governor elections, presidential elections, I actually haven't given you guys an idea of where I believe Virginia will end up by the time we reach Election Day. Now, I will solidify my prediction much closer to the November time period. Right around October, I will release my final prediction. I will probably try to do a video where I include margins. I'll probably try to include some type of county map, but I am going to try to just give you a better idea and understanding of where I think Terry McAuliffe and Glenn Youngkin will land in November of 2021. Because looking at our matchup here, it seems to be a more traditional, more centrist race. We have a Republican who tried to tie himself far away from President Trump, doesn't even have any campaign stops scheduled with him. And then you have Terry McAuliffe, the former governor of the state, someone who ran in a year which was not too favorable for Democrats and ended up winning, and offers that more centrist, more establishment Democrat feel to the ticket. So rather than it be a Clinton-Trump matchup, Biden-Trump matchup, you're looking more at an old reminiscent Obama-Romney matchup, Obama-McCain, Bush-Kerry, Bush-Gore, that type of matchup. But Virginia is much different than it was just 4 years ago, 8 years ago, 12 years ago, or at the beginning of the 21st century. So just a quick rundown. Let's go through the electoral history of the state of Virginia over these past years, past election years at least. In the beginning of the 21st century, Virginia went to George W. Bush by 8 percentage points. Fast forward to 2004, it goes to him by 8 points again. Then all of a sudden, by swinging over 15 points, it goes to Obama by 6.3% in the 2008 election. That was viewed largely as the Democratic Party's best performance in Virginia, or would be but their best performance in Virginia for quite some time. In 2012, it reverted back to a 3.9% margin of victory, and then 2016 was also a year which was regarded as potentially one of the stronger years for Democrats in the state of Virginia. Hillary Clinton won here by 5.3%. Now, the reason why this makes a little bit of sense as to why some people expected this to be the stronger victory for the Democrats in Virginia, at least for the foreseeable future at that time, was because Tim Kaine was the vice presidential nominee for Hillary Clinton. Well, he actually served as a senator from the state of Virginia and went on 2 years later to win by over 15 points. To put it plainly, he was popular, and yet Clinton only won the state by 5.3%. And I say only won by 5.3% because Biden did something that no Democrat has done in Virginia since 1944, and that was win the state by double digits. Joe Biden won here, 10.1% over Donald Trump, 54% of the vote to 44%. If we actually adjust these margins here, and we go ahead and type in, okay, let's do 10.1% right on the likely margin. Look what this does. Okay, this would keep Virginia in the likely column. Let's go ahead and make safe, actually, 10.1%, because then it highlights it even more. 10.1%. There we go. Now you can see every state highlighted in light or slightly darker red or blue was won by a smaller margin than Virginia. Florida, Texas, Ohio, Iowa, Alaska. Virginia was a larger margin than many of these states. So keep that in mind as we look at this governor election, which is expected to be potentially a Republican upset, but is largely much more widely expected to be a Democratic victory. But the question isn't if Terry McAuliffe can win. That seems to be the general understanding. Virginia is a Democratic state. This is Terry McAuliffe's race to lose. He won here back in 2013. Only he can make the race competitive. The question is, how much will Terry McAuliffe win by? Sort of revealing to you that I believe Terry McAuliffe will win in the state of Virginia. And it has everything to do with the northern region of the state. And I will explain why right now. In 2012, Barack Obama won the state of Virginia by 3 percentage points. Seems here by the New York Times estimations. I believe on the final results, he ended up winning the state of Virginia by 3.9%. But taking a look at the countywide results, take a look at how they shifted relative to the 2008 election. Almost every county shifted towards the right, except for the select few around the major cities. And there were some in the major cities or the Northern Virginia region that shifted to the right. But this was the last time we really saw the state at a pretty competitive nature. 3.9% is the smallest margin of victory for Democrats that we've seen on the presidential level during, I would say, any time they won it in the 21st century. And for the Democratic Party to still be up significantly in many of these counties shows what the floor is for Democrats. This is their low point. This is their position in which they wouldn't be overtly confident about who would be the winner in the state of Virginia. Let's take a look around some of the more notable counties, specifically the Northern Virginia region, where we're going to be covering Arlington, Alexandria, Fairfax, Loudoun, and Prince William. So this starts up right into the D.C. metro area with Arlington County. Obama won here by 40 points. He won in neighboring Alexandria by 44 points. He won in Fairfax by 20 points. He won in Loudoun County by 5 points, and Prince William by 16 points. 4 years later, despite Hillary Clinton losing the election, and you can try to put this on to the fact that she had the vice presidential nominee, she outperformed him in every single step. But before we get there, we need to take a look at 2013. This was the time in which Terry McAuliffe, the Democratic nominee, won the governor's race after a Republican had just won here 4 years ago by over 20 points in this governor election. Take a look at the same counties. Looking at Arlington, Terry McAuliffe won here by a pretty considerable amount. You're looking at a margin here. Let me grab my calculator because I did not do the estimations myself, at least yet. So 72 minus 22, a 50-point margin of victory. Again, for reference, Hillary Clinton did better, Obama did worse. In Alexandria County, we saw a margin 72 minus 23, which was 49%. Obama only won here by 44%. Looking over in Loudoun County, the margin was actually slightly narrower. You're talking about a margin of around, less than 5 points, slightly worse than Obama, but still around the same area. Prince William County went to Terry McAuliffe by just under 10 points. So Prince William actually went to Obama by 16 points in 2012. So looking at this victory for Democrats, they were able to win the 2013 gubernatorial election by 2.5% statewide. And they did so by winning in those counties by the margins that I had told you. But then in 2016, 3 years later after this election, we saw a dramatically different result in Northern Virginia. On your screen right now, you are looking at the change from 2012, which means pretty much the rest of the country, honestly speaking, taking a look, a lot more red than you see blue, a lot more red than blue. Let's go back to Virginia. But looking at the change from 2012, there were a few exceptions, and I think that you can notice them. And they have to do primarily in the Northern Virginia area and primarily around the major cities in the state of Virginia. Taking a look over here, Alexandria, Arlington, Fairfax, Loudoun area, you're looking at a lot of votes, a lot of people, and you can see the change in vote share. So let's start off with Arlington. Again, keep in mind this was a losing election for Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton won Arlington by 59 points, won in Alexandria by 58 points, won in Fairfax by 36 points, won in Loudoun by 17 points, and won in let's go ahead and see here. I showed you the wrong precinct, but it's still Fairfax. In Prince William County, Clinton won by 21 points. So for reference, Arlington, Obama plus 40, Clinton plus 59. Alexandria, Obama plus 44, Clinton plus 58. Fairfax, Obama plus 20, Clinton plus 36. Loudoun, Obama plus 5, Clinton plus 17. And Prince William, Obama plus 16, Clinton plus 21. And don't even get me started on what happened in 2020. Taking a look at the margins of victories for Biden in these states, sometimes by over 60 percentage points. 60 percentage points. Loudoun County, which was largely regarded at a time as a swing county, went to Joe Biden by an extremely large margin. At this point, a margin of 25 points. 25 points. Clinton won there by 17, Obama by 5. Looking at the margin, McAuliffe by 5 as well. we have to go ahead and look at 2017, the last time we saw a governor's election. This is providing context as to how Northern Virginia and, certain regions of the state, Richmond area, right? Roanoke. What do you notice here? These are pointed out as major cities. To put it frankly, the state of Virginia operates in a very similar fashion to the rest of the country. Urban, more selective counties, in many cases in Virginia, more affluent counties, and I think that's the only thing that really differs from the rest of the country. But looking at the regions, what you see are small pockets of blue amongst a sea of red, and that seems to be consistent in all of the elections. When you apply just a blanket coat, red and blue, you will see it a lot heavier. When it's lighter red, it's harder to understand it, but essentially just smaller pockets of blue. Richmond area, Norfolk area, Virginia Beach, Roanoke, and then Northern Virginia. What happens in Northern Virginia, though, pretty much just drives the rest of the state. So what does this mean for 2021? What does this mean for Glenn Youngkin and Terry McAuliffe? Well, I don't think this is going to be a 9-point margin of victory like it was for Ralph Northam. Donald Trump was in a position where his approval rating wasn't high at all. I mean, this was one of the lower points of his entire presidency. But do I think it'll be 2013? Probably not. We probably won't see Terry McAuliffe win by 2.5%. That seems to be a very low estimate and a very low bar for the Democratic Party in the state of Virginia. The Virginia of 2013 was not the same Virginia as 2017, and it's not the same Virginia as 2021. This state is changing ever so rapidly. And looking at the demographic changes in terms of the overall shift, Northern Virginia, almost very similar in terms of overall composition, but just holding a lot more Democratic support than it did in the past. So for 2021, it seems to me as if Terry McAuliffe could be anywhere between a 4, 5, or 6-point victory over Glenn Youngkin. And something new actually was released that was quite surprising to see from Glenn Youngkin, where he referred to Asian Americans, essentially, as yellow Virginians. And while there is this whole, questioning, was Glenn Youngkin intentionally trying to say something that was perceived as racially insensitive? Was this statement correct? It doesn't matter about what he was trying to say or what his intentions were. The impact of it is that the Democratic Party is taking his words and using them against him. And you might not think this would hold a lot of weight, but when you take a look at the demographic breakdown in the state of Virginia, the Asian alone percentage is 7%. In fact, they actually vote at a higher rate in terms of overall percentage. And then looking at the Asian American population across the country, I mean, you're alienating 6% of the nation's population and 7% of Virginia's population. Now, not to say that every Virginia voter that's Asian or identifies as Asian American would be upset or would feel inclined to vote for another person besides Glenn Youngkin as a result of this, but this sort of feeds into the Democratic Party's ability to tie Glenn Youngkin towards President Trump. Glenn Youngkin has been very careful in many of his statements. It seems that he's trying to run a politically correct campaign, going so far as to subtract Donald Trump from the campaign in almost every regard is something to point out. While Glenn Youngkin certainly needed Trump voters in the primary and still needs them in the general, he doesn't need to be full-on Trump Republican. But this gives Democrats ammunition to use against him. So looking at the electoral history of the state of Virginia, looking at the trends in Northern Virginia. Northern Virginia is where the majority of the state's Asian population is. Nothing is really aligning like they need to be for Glenn Youngkin to be in a position where I would say he's going to win. The stars would have to align. He would have to cross all of his T's, dot all of his I's, and then some in order to win in Virginia. While it's possible, and more possible than it was for Trump to win Virginia in 2020, we are not looking at a 2017 situation, sure, but we are also not looking at a 2013 possibility. I truly believe that at this point in time, McAuliffe has an advantage of 4 to 6 points. And that's exactly sort of what the polling data is telling us. When we look at the polling data, it shows Terry McAuliffe up 4 points, Terry McAuliffe up 2 points. I would say I trust the 4 points one just because it's not a partisan poll. WPAI was a Republican internal. So if they still have McAuliffe up, what does that tell you about the state of the race? While Youngkin will certainly be better than Gillespie, will certainly be better than Trump, He's still a Republican in a state that voted further for Biden than Texas did for Trump, than Alaska did for Trump, than Ohio did for Trump, than Iowa did for Trump, than Minnesota did for Biden, than New Hampshire did for Biden, Nevada did for Biden. Virginia, it was actually one of the few states that ended up being not so much a swing state in the 2020 election. While it was key, while it was for a while viewed as that, we knew how it was going to go. And we knew months out, a year out before the election. And that's the image that we are getting from Virginia. So right now, if I was to put money on it, Terry McAuliffe wins by anywhere from 4 to 6 points. I'm not going to comment on the rest of the statewide races. That has yet to be seen. I need to do a little bit more investigation and a little bit more research as to how that would end up. But for right now, I will say that I find it to be confident in my understanding that Terry McAuliffe will win the Virginia governor's election by 4 to 6 points as the race stands today, early July 2021. A lot of time to go, but Glenn Youngkin needs to do overtime. This is Terry McAuliffe's race to lose, but Glenn Youngkin certainly needs to put in the effort there. But McAuliffe doesn't seem to have any major missteps like you might expect from someone who's widely expected to win this race, but it might be there. We don't know. This race can change in a few weeks, overnight, in a few minutes, at a debate, whatever it might be. Right now, this is the Democratic Party's race to lose, and you should keep your eye out on it because it is truly the only race in 2021 that is worth noting beyond the primary. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. Make sure to comment down suggestions below. Subscribe on the left if you haven't already, and check out the Instagram and Twitter. At the bottom left of the screen, there's also a Discord server for you to go ahead and join. On the screen, there's a video you can watch, and then a playlist for my 2021 election analysis videos. Again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you all tomorrow.